Hello again, church. I'm going to do a little wrap-up, recap on our commandments. I'd just like to go over a few things. So we talked about the first four commandments being about our relationship with God. We can't have other gods before God, which is idolatry. Thou shalt not make any graven images. We shall not take the name of the Lord in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So all of these things are encapsulated into how we should honor God. Now, why didn't I go into each one of them individually? Because when Jesus came down here, he consolidated them. He said, love God. You know, there's an expression that I love that says, love God and do whatever you want. What's implied there is that if you really love God, you're not going to do anything to offend God or dishonor God. So it makes you free because you won't consider any so-called laws or commandments or legislative things that would get in the way of your relationship getting tarnished by your behavior with the Lord. And I just wanted to clear that up. It wasn't an oversight. Again, Jesus reduced the Ten Commandments down to arguably two statements: love God, love others. And that argues the fact that if we truly do those things, it makes it a lot easier to understand, and it's very clear that we're doing what the Lord wants us to do. We talked about honoring our parents. We are asked to honor our parents and try and find a way to honor our parents even if they don't deserve it, which is extremely hard in many cases, which we talked about. We talked about murder, killing, the difference between personal revenge, killing someone over things. We talked about warfare. We talked about abortion. These are all very difficult things, and many people will have arguments and justifications about why they should do some things. Well, he deserved it, or she had it coming. That's not for us to decide. Again, those are God's issues. Thou shalt not commit adultery. We talked about that, and we talked about the fact that in Matthew, God took that a step further and said, not only can't you commit the act of adultery, you can't even look at another person with lust, because if you do that, you might as well have committed the act. Because again, the New Testament is all about our hearts and how we please Jesus. And then in wrapping up, we talked about stealing, bearing false witness, and coveting. Here again, these are all things that diminish God in our hearts. He knows it, we know it. We put him second, third, fourth, fifth. We throw him in the trunk. He becomes our spare tire when we need him. So we don't steal because everything is God's. We don't bear false witness against our neighbor because Jesus said, love others. And we do not covet because Jesus said, love others. And Jesus said, love God. So again, just as a reminder, coveting comes very close to idolatry, and anything that comes between us and our desire to please our Lord and honor him is a sin. So, these commandments are always there, staring us in the face, and I love Ray Comfort when he does his street evangelizing, and he'll go outside and says, do you think you're a good person? And almost everybody says yes. And he says, do you ever wish somebody was dead? Do you ever look at another person in lust? Have you ever stolen anything at all? Have you ever lied in any way? Have you ever lusted after other people's stuff? Have you ever dishonored your mother and father? Have you ever taken the Lord's name in vain? Inevitably, everybody who's honest says, yeah, I did those things. So in wrapping up, I just want to point out what I have mentioned, and I don't think this can be mentioned enough, is God knew we couldn't keep these commandments. He gave them to us to point us to his Son, Jesus, and to show us that it is only with the love, grace, mercy, and sacrifice of Jesus, his death and blood on the cross, that we are saved. And I hope this gives you some enlightenment in some ways, or clarification, or if nothing else, just to go back and review these things. I've often said to people, I'm going to ask you a simple question right now. Why do you stop at a red light? Most people will answer, well, it's the law. Yeah, but why do you stop at a red light? It's the law. What does that mean? Well, I don't want to get caught. Is that really why you stop at a red light? I don't think so. I stop at a red light after I gave it some thought because I have this agreement, I have this covenant with everybody else that the reason I stop at that red light is I'm expecting you to honor that too. And if you honor it and I honor it, we will keep each other and our families, our children, and everything that we value in life, human life, we will keep it safe because we make these covenant agreements. So explore that in your head. Don't just say, well, it's against the law. Find your own personal reason why it makes sense to do it. Why does it make sense to cross the street? Why does it make sense to obey stop signs and stoplights? Because it's the decent thing to do. It's truly the only way we can ensure that we keep each other safe. And obviously it doesn't always work, but we still trust in it every time we stop or go through a green light, don't we? When we go through a green light, we're hoping everyone else keeps that covenant with us. So that's what we need to think about with God's laws. Why do you obey them? And it shouldn't just be that you're going to get caught. It should be because it makes all the sense in the world. I love you, church.